Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maciek, and on this channel I look at design practice issues. I'm a product designer and I will try to show them to you as best as possible. I'm discussing methodological, technological, psychological and other more or less logical issues. Although a lot is said about design, few people know how complex the process is. I would like to dedicate it to the people who are not directly involved in the designing but have an impact on its course of action. I believe that by breaking stereotypes I will contribute to the promotion of knowledge about the true face of design. Let's meet the designing matters together. The trap of creativity. As an introduction to Design Podcast, let me give you some kind of statement or manifesto to think about. Our gift of creativity should be used wisely and lead always to sustain a good existence on this planet. Creativity is a character trait allowing the skillful creation of new objects, phenomena, ideas, be it physical or mental beings, through mental and manual process. The name comes from the Latin word creatus, meaning creative. The newly emerging effects of creativity are usually related to already existing concepts, due to the fact that they do not come out of a vacuum. In an already existing environment, they are creative development of those concepts. The very definition of creativity doesn't determine whether it's a positive or a negative phenomenon, but we know from experience that everything has its limits and sometimes too much of something is harmful. It seems to be the case with creativity. As an intelligent creature from the dawn of time, we rewarded the representatives of our species for being creative in approaching the problems that our everyday life posed to us in an era when we devoted most of our time to food acquisition and ensuring the safety of the family. In those days, creative effort brought not only the feeling of fulfillment to the creator, but also tangible benefits related to the improvement of the everyday activity or even the extension of a free time, its quality and possibility of helping others. Hence, creativity is a trait admired and desired in people, because in those realities, the creator of unnecessary thing would be simply considered as a parasite. However, creativity ceased to be so pure a long time ago, since all kinds of leadership, be it political or entrepreneurial, recognized the benefits coming from the services of the creative people. Creativity has become a tool for gaining one's own benefits on a large scale. It has become a tangible good, used also in a very cheap or even harmful way. Probably somewhere after the Second World War, we stood on the threshold of an era in which we stopped coping with what we were creating. But we are still stubbornly going through it without protection and restraint. The economic interest is not sufficiently regulated by the law in that matter. We are introducing new creations to our environment, and more irrational ideas are being tossed to us. According to many of those ideas, only our private interest is the main interest. Adopting such a point of view is a tantamount to standing on the slope of littering our reality with unnecessary beings to the limit of our existence on this planet. Spreading of new ideas and easy access to a simple production tools and the freedom to produce anything that comes to someone's mind only within the limits of safety regulations leads to the creating of those thick plastic containers for carrying a quarter of a cake or a container for a banana, and many other absurd objects being used for anything unnecessary. Creators do not want to judge their creations as long as they bring sufficient profit to their manufacturers. The products of recognizable brands that are at first glance valuable will still be produced, but of such poor quality that similar ones produced 30 years ago are still working, and the new ones will stop fulfill their functions after no more than maybe 2 years of use. How to name such an item as not a garbage of a creative process? Now everybody can produce or print at home their own trash, not only buy something that has a potential to become trash in the future. This year, there are nearly 8 billion of us on this planet. To visualize this number, it is 8 with 9 zeros, or 8,000 millions, and each of those people is a consumer of goods that are often not used for sustain the life or health, not even for well-being. Many of our needs are invented for us to sell crap. Is there really any unnecessary cash in our pockets that, at a time when each of us drags a large part of the national debt, the retirement age increases and pensions often do not reassure conditions for a decent aging? Time to notice that there are better and safer measures for our health and well-being than just gadgets which end up in a landfill when touched by 3 people within a few days of their existence on this planet, becoming a burden for millions of years. Isn't that really extremely selfish and stupid? All that so several million people fulfilled their whim without any meaning to their real need. The level of waste recycling in my country was around 27% at the end of 2019. There are countries such as Austria, Switzerland and Luxembourg where 100% of generated municipal waste is recycled. Remember that knowing human nature, with a high degree of probability, such statistics are overestimated in order to improve the image of local governments or other institutions. We should also remember that the processed waste is not the same quality as the primary resource materials, and their features are degraded by subsequent processing to the level of their uselessness. The visual quality is also not the highest unless we, as a community, lower down our aesthetic standards and learn to accept ugly recycled items. I personally wouldn't count on it. Therefore, we must all remember to think about what we are acquiring, because all of this will sooner or later be a waste, the result of someone's creativity. The only criteria for garbage makers to temper them is the lack of sales for worthless goods. What should we do so that our positive feature would not soon be associated with heaps of human creativity in landfills? First of all, we must learn to think holistically and anticipate the effects of our action locally, in the comfort of our homes and apartments. It is not wasted time, because anyway, we will have to spend time segregating waste, spend money for containers in different colors and bear increasing disposal prices. Let us approach the products of somebody's factories of trash and artificial needs with some distance. A long time ago, we bought less and spent much more time deciding what to buy, to choose something worth of our hard-earned money. Those things then serve our families for years and even generations. Such items now have a soul and a specific emotional and material value, and even if they disappear as trash, they will not clutter the planet, at least because they were made of decent materials. Although the creators in their educational process are thought about environmental awareness and encouraged to devote themselves to a basic level of concern for the environment, at least in those schools I know, it often happens that reality makes them quickly disillusioned after contact with their new boss. There are employers which have a designer in their companies for implementing of a company owner ideas only because he is the owner as a first and only reason. If one does not agree with the company owner, the answer is there are many designers looking for a job. Let us not be the designers for those kind of people. In addition to being harmful to the planet, we also harm our way of thinking about the products of someone else's creativity. We make sure that we can justify every object or action with some need. We want things only because we can afford it, or subconsciously delegate responsibility to the producer who, in the opinion of many, knows what he is doing if he creates such thing. We evaluate the surface without really thinking about the objects we collect. Things which later become dust collectors. In many environments, the practice of giving gifts is abandoned altogether, which in times of general availability lose their former meaning. Each of us remember how many gifts were missed and ended up being dust collectors. A good thing when considering items is acquiring a group of habits triggered by saying, "I cannot afford silly things," which means that if we have to spend more money, we will think more about the objects, consult it, evaluate its usefulness, and compare it with other. And we will consider carefully their role in our lives. This will allow you to choose the best or give up the idea of acquiring such thing. If the changes in ourselves start to bear fruit, we will all benefit from it, and we harness our creativity to a reasonable creation. Less is a new better, perhaps. We have to learn to judge the world of ideas and matter around us consciously. But that's a topic for another talk.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. I tried to raise the subject and make you aware. I'm happy to contact with those of you experienced in the topic and perhaps continue it in another podcast. Do not hesitate to leave a feedback on this episode. Leave me a thumb up if you find this channel valuable. Please share it through the network and hit subscribe button to not to miss the next episode. Until next time.